Here's a fun idea. Play spin the bottle with your friends and replace the bottle with Mehrunes' razor, and whoever gets picked has to touch it and hope they don't get the small chance of instant death. Whoever's the last man standing gets to eat everyone else. Such is the rule of the Green Pact. Greetings, travelers. It is with great excitement and a new editing software that I bring to you one of the most iconic Daedric quests from my own personal childhood and everyone else who took a stab at a stealth build. Pieces of the Past. The quest dedicated to Lord Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric Prince of Change, Disaster, Destruction, and more names than you can count on two hands. There are many ways to start this quest, most common one being receiving an invitation to the Mythic Dawn Museum from the courier after surpassing level 20.
There's a new museum opening up in Dawnstar. The owner is asking me to hand out invitations to travelers.
The alternative options are skipping the courier and waiting around Dawnstar until Silas shows up, or asking the barkeeps around Skyrim if they've heard of any new rumors. Or you could just walk around Dawnstar and listen to the citizens talk about the newest member of their homeowners association. As you approach the museum, you'll find Silas standing on his front porch arguing with Dawnstar's court mage Medina.
Let it stay there.
The museum is opening, Medina.
She's telling Silas to let go of the idea of this museum, saying his ancestors would not want this. And it's from this point in my playthrough that I started to think, after all these years, Silas is kind of like the Mythic Dawn version of an anime kid. Oh, you don't see it?
Welcome to my museum. Please feast your eyes on my collection. I've got the kimonos, I've got the mangas, I've got the forbidden ancient hentai. And last but not least, I have the sheath to a katana that I want you to fetch for me. Did I also mention that my forefather was the one who assassinated Uriel Septim VII?
So after Medina and Silas are done arguing, Silas proudly welcomes his first and last guest to the brand new museum of the Mythic Dawn.
Why don't you come in? You can browse the displays and we can talk. I have a job you look perfect for.
If you decide to go inside with him, you'll quickly notice that this building is literally just his house, with the place that he sleeps being 10 feet away from the displays. Anime kid. But as you glance over each display, Silas will share some commentary describing the objects you're currently looking at. The first display contains the robes dyed with sacrificial blood worn by the Mythic Dawn members who would gather to plot what would soon become known as the Oblivion Crisis. The second display holds all that remains of the Mysterium Xarxes, an evil book written by Lord Dagon himself. And for some reason, if you set this page on fire with magic, it turns into a bucket. Skyrim. It's also rumored that the Mysterium Xarxes was used by the leader of the Mythic Dawn, Mankar Cameron, to open a portal to some sort of paradise where all of his followers would live for an eternity. The third display holds the 4 copies of the commentaries on the Mysterium Xarxes, which were written by Mankar Cameron, which would basically serve to be the not-so-holy texts that were central to the Mythic Dawn cult and their beliefs. And finally, in the fourth display, a simple yet ornate scabbard with the symbol of an Oblivion Gate, which is a key symbol in the worship of Mehrunes Dagon and the cult of the Mythic Dawn. Now, after you decide you're done sightseeing, Silas will present you with a business proposition. He tells you a story of how, after the Oblivion Crisis, several groups were formed with the sole purpose of eliminating the Mythic Dawn by any means necessary. During this crusade, one of the groups gained possession of the fabled Mehrunes razor. They then split the dagger into 3 pieces and spread them out amongst each other, vowing to never let the pieces reunite again. And our friend Silas over here is willing to pay us handsomely to gather all the pieces for him to put in his museum. And obviously we're here, so we're gonna do it. Let's start with the pommel. For the pommel, we're gonna start by heading to Hag Rock Redoubt and work our way up to Dead Crone Rock, where an old hag raven named Draskua is keeping the pommel safe at the top of the mountain. Getting through Hag Rock wasn't too bad. You'll have to fight your way through, and not gonna lie, it can get a little crazy.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening!
Whew. So we're at the top now. All you gotta do is beat the brakes off of the frail old bird woman and take the pommel out of whatever crevice she stuck it in, and that's the first piece. You have it just like that. Something else that's worthy of note while you're up here is you can also find a word wall that will teach you the first part of the Dismay shout, along with a stone of Baron's Eye on the table. And next up, we're gonna grab the blade. For that, we're gonna head on over to Crack Tusk Keep and carve a path through the orcs to get to Big Daddy Orc Gunzel. And obviously, a man of such fortitude deserves an even and fair fight to the death. Am I wrong? Yes. So now that Gunzo is donezo, we're gonna grab the key he had on him and take it on down to the Cracktusk Vaults. Once you're down here, there's no remaining combatants, so you can catch your breath after all that fighting, but watch your step because this room is booby-trapped to the max. And here's where I'm gonna blow your mind. You can totally Indiana Jones this shit, and I'm gonna show you how. Because if there's one thing I know, it's how to repel boobies and traps at all times. So once you get to the vault entrance and pull both the levers that retract the spikes covering the door, you will have 3 different tripwires to avoid, and the stand on the far end holds the shards with a pressure plate that will also set off the traps. But it's all very easily avoidable by simply jumping over the tripwires, and with a little finesse, you can take the bucket on the ground and place it over the knife shards, grab the shards, the pressure plate doesn't get triggered, you walk away with your second piece of the dagger, grab your hat before the door closes, and now we're already on to the final piece. For the blade handle, it's time to head to the most boring, empty, uninspired hold in all of Skyrim. Illinois. I mean Morthal. This one is actually by far the easiest piece to get. Once you're there, you gotta find Morthal's miller named Jorgen. When you approach him and tell him that you're looking for pieces of Mehrunes' razor, he acts like he doesn't have any idea what you're talking about.
Don't know what you're talking about, stranger.
That is until you name drop Silas, which gets him to admit that his father had suspicion Silas was connected to the Mythic Dawn. And after 8 generations of protecting this piece of the dagger, keeping it out of the hands that once held the fate of the world, you can literally just beat his ass and he'll give you the key and just say, fuck it, you can have it. Your father's and forefathers' life's work gone after one fist fight. But why have I not yet shown you my gameplay of kicking his ass? That's because seemingly for some reason, my copy of Skyrim is cursed and the vampires did not want this to happen. And our fight was interrupted by vampires every single time, day or night.
Bullshit!
So I eventually got tired of having the same conversation with Jorgen over and over and just took the key to his house and chest off of his corpse after the vampires were done with him. You go into his house, grab the handle, and now here I stand with all but one piece of the razor in my hand, and it's time to reunite then.
Another corpse for the pile. What happened?
Upon bringing all the pieces of the blade to Silas, he then informs you that actually, the empty scabbard on his display case belonged to the dagger the whole time! It is here that Silas tells you about the final step in his plan to make the dagger whole again. We have to go to the shrine of Mehrunes Dagon and contact the Lord of Change directly in hopes that he will restore the weapon to its former glory. So you hike up the frozen mountain until you reach Dagon's shrine, where Silas will greet you, place the pieces of the dagger on the altar, and take his best shot at calling upon Mehrunes Dagon.
Please, bring the blade's full glory to Tamriel again.
But Dagon doesn't answer him, so the only option is for you to step in, place your hands on the altar, and
You, mortal, you are worthy of speaking to.
so this guy who has dedicated his entire mortal existence to the servitude of Dagon isn't worth speaking to, but that guy knows what's up. So Dagon tells us that while we are worthy of speaking to, he cannot declare a winner until one of us is dead.
Kill Silas. He and his family have served their purpose.
And I just want to say, I feel like it's very telling of what the entities of the Daedric Princes are. How so many of these quests end in some sort of sacrifice or battle to the death for seemingly nothing more than the amusement of that prince. You kill Logrel for Molag during the House of Horrors. You kill the fucking priest dude for Namira in the Taste of Death. You kill one of your own friends of your choosing for Boethia in Boethia's Calling. And that list just keeps going on. So Silas hears Dagon tell us that we have to kill him and immediately starts pleading for his life.
Wait, don't kill me. There's another way. You get a generous amount of gold, I get to complete my collection, and nobody has to die.
The shell has spoken!
Fine. I'm not dying without a fight. Here we go.
Bye. Have a beautiful time.
Then Dagon rewards us by telling us to place our hands upon his altar one last time to bear witness to his endless power. And we get possibly one of the coolest animations in the game of the knife levitating and repairing itself before our eyes. Then as a final test, he throws a couple of Dremora at us because again, that's how little we are to these all-powerful beings. Kill the Dremora, and that's it. The quest is completely finished. However, if you decide to instead spare Silas's life and find a way to protect him from the Dremora Dagon summons to kill him for you, the quest ends and we never hear from Lord Dagon again. Silas returns to his house where you can interact with him and listen to some voice lines heard by a very small percentage of players.
Good to see you in my museum again. I owe you my life. The museum is doing well. I haven't told anyone about the incident with the razor. I never thought all I would want is peace and quiet, but I think our little adventure scared me straight.
And you can find all the pieces of the blade finally reunited in their case. It may be broken, but Silas still has his museum. And that, my friends, was Pieces of the Past. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And again, I just want to say real quick, this is the first video I've made since switching over to DaVinci Resolve, and I'm trying my best to work with it because honestly, what the fuck am I even looking at right now? So I hope you think this was a good creative decision. And finally, I want to give a special thanks to the people who have chosen to further support me during these dark times we find ourselves in. You guys keep me going, and I hope that what I do is worth your generosity. Give me a
That's a knife.
in the comments so I know you made it this far. Watch the skies, tell someone you love them, and I hope to speak with all of you again real soon.